On this edition of In the Gun, WVU baseball goes somewhere they've never gone before, and we pay homage, tribute to the OG wedge busters of football. All that and more on this edition of ITG.
Let's go!
You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
Go single! Thomas nuts!
ITG.
You know, folks there in West Virginia, they believe in God, country, family, and Mountaineer football, and not necessarily in that order.
There will be a product on the field that will match the fans that we have.
Come on across the Star City Bridge and on up the hill.
You're in the right place. You are in the gun.
Because once you enter this family, there's no getting out.
In the Gun, episode 168 of your new favorite WVU football podcast. I am Wesley Euler, as always, with the best teammates in the whole dang business. We got the signal caller, Jed Drenning, and the runaway beer truck / Dancing with the Star. We'll have to talk about that here in just a few minutes. Mr. Owen Schmidt himself. But as always, we know that this episode of ITG, is brought to you in part by your friends at Bet Online, where the game starts. Your number one source for the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals this season. Head to their website today to get in on the action. Make sure you use the promo code BELIEVE when you sign up for a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit at Bet Online, where the game starts. Gentlemen, real quick, before we get into Around Campus and the just unprecedented success of the WVU baseball team, speaking of the NBA Finals, starting this week, Thursday, go get them to our guy, Joe Mazzulla. Of course, former WVU point guard, was part of that Final Four team in 2010. Now, in his 30s still as the head coach of the Boston Celtics, youngest coach ever to lead a team to the NBA Finals. Obviously, if they get the job done, he will be the youngest head coach to ever win the NBA Finals. I am not a Boston sports fan by any means, but for these next couple weeks, let's go Celtics. Let's get it done. Come on, Joe Mazzulla, baby.
Oh, and absolutely. You see, he was invited back. He's going to be part of the Country Roads Trust football kickoff dinner in August. So, or a friend of the show, Charles Wesley Godwin, is going to be part of that. Yeah. Joe Mazzulla is going to be part of that. And, shout out to another friend of the show, John Antonic. He asked a trivia question on Twitter the other day. I don't know if you guys saw that, but right now, Joe Mazzulla is trying to become the second Mountaineer in history to win a professional championship as a head coach. The only other being Joe Stidehar, who was head coach of the Los Angeles Rams, those point-a-minute offense teams, 1951. Ooh. So you're talking about elite company there, but heck of a story up there in Boston, Big O.
Dude, just so awesome to see the success. He's worked so hard, and he's such a humble guy. Faith close to the chest. Just does the right thing. He's the right thing guy coach. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He has his methods. And he believes in them wholeheartedly. And I mean, that team has been absolutely fire since he's been there. He's done nothing but get that ship, right where it needs to be. So excited to see what happens. And like with baseball as well, man, it's awesome time to be a Mountaineer, dude.
Really is. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Both in terms of what we have going on in Morgantown, and then stuff on the professional level, like you mentioned there. It's certainly exciting having Joe Mazzulla at the forefront of that. To have a former player who has a chance to coach a pro team to a title is a big deal in and of itself. But I think you guys know this. There's a handful of franchises in America that just are bigger brands, command more attention, more eyeballs. It means a little bit more when you have some success there. Cowboys, Steelers, Packers, Yankees, right? And I think the Boston Celtics, the Los Angeles Lakers, teams like that, the Celtics are definitely on that list in terms of one of the most popular, one of the most historic American sports franchises. So to see him win a championship would be cool, period. But for him to do it at a place like that would be pretty special.
Absolutely. And he's getting love as being a basketball genius, basically. When you
Did you
listen
see
to
the?
some other basketball people, you
Yeah, did
talking
you
about
see
LeBron?
I was gonna say, did you see the LeBron
Yeah.
clip? LeBron called him an effing
Yes.
genius this week.
Yes, he did. He said, "Who fouls when you're up by 6 with so many seconds left?" And he's like, "Didn't you see Joe Mazzulla did?" He's like, "What?" Yeah, but the guy's just a strategist. He's brilliant. His peers are recognizing that. Those around the NBA are recognizing that.
Yep.
So, all good things, for Mountaineer fans. This story coming out of Boston.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's go get it done, Celtics, and then we'll be at that football kickoff, and in a couple months, Joe Mazzulla will have a nice fancy ring on his finger to show everybody as well. Another thank you to our friends at Fortis for presenting this episode of ITG, and our guy Rick Lewis for roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed. You got to check out fortis.us.com. Gentlemen, unprecedented heights for the WVU baseball program as they are set for supers, the super regional. If you aren't someone who fluently speaks college baseball, and I'm one of those people, to be fair, this is the equivalent basically of the Sweet 16. We are down to the Sweet 16 in college baseball. If WVU will play a 3-game, a best-of-3 series against UNC, the Tar Heels in Chapel Hill, if they win that, they go to the College World Series in Omaha. They have never been to the Super Regionals before in this format. The Super Regionals only became a thing in 1999, to be fair, so it's only about 24, 25 years old here. But guys, I mean, we've followed this. Owen, you touched on it there for a minute. Like, we've discussed the WVU baseball team. We've given them props. We've given them love throughout the history of this podcast. But this is, I mean, truly unprecedented ground. You win your regional. You're on to the Super Regional, into the Sweet 16. You win a 3-game series, and you're into the College World Series. This is pretty stinking cool.
Yeah, as a guy who played baseball in high school and would have loved to play at the next level, dude, I'm fired up right now. I'm so pumped. I was talking to my brother the other day, just, how cool is it that, the powers of the sports at WVU, everybody collectively kind of pulling weight right now. And baseball has been pulling it for the last couple of years, obviously, much like women's soccer and stuff like that, but been able to just be dominant here. And Big 12, no slouch in baseball, man.
No doubt. No doubt.
No slouch.
Really good.
You know what I mean? So to be competitive all year, and then, now it's for the whole kit and caboodle, man. World Series. I'm ready.
Got to get there. We'll be taking a road trip out to Omaha in a couple weeks.
As you said, Wes, you win the best-of-3 series on the road at Carolina. As I understand it, smaller stadium than maybe even Morgantown, and going to be tough to get a hold of tickets. I mean, you saw some of the players' parents already concerned about that. But when you look at this, North Carolina is one of the best teams in the country. Some of the odds I saw were 70% the likelihood of Carolina winning to advance, but don't tell Randy Mazey the odds. We've learned that. He's Han Solo, right? Don't tell me the odds.
Well, don't tell
You
Owen
saw
Schmidt
this-
the odds. I mean, Owen Schmidt might have given a famous speech on national TV after a game where he talked
That's
about
right.
84% of the country and the only state that was covered in blue. I mean, there might be a guy on this show. I'm just saying.
And he did it without Chewbacca watching his back, right? But this Mountaineer team jumps on a plane. That's a good Chewbacca.
That was really
Flies
good.
across the country to the Tucson regional. That's not like next door.
No.
And play their best
Wins
baseball,
3 straight
take
games.
care of business against quality competition. Now they're coming back. And speaking of coming back, the story, and you know where I'm going with this, that maybe I love the most out of this so far. The baseball team only had room on the charter for 30 or so seats. In other words,
Glad you
only
brought
enough
this up.
room for the players. So Randy Mazey and the staff decided, hey, we're flying commercial to get home. We don't care. Our kids deserve the best. We'll fly commercial. That
awesome.
is why this team
awesome.
plays the way they do for him. Owen, that's not an accident, right? I mean, that's the magic sauce that gets this team to the first super regional in program history. That's the type of leadership that has taken this baseball program to heights that we never thought possible in a league, as you said, that is about as tough as it gets with the Big 12. And unless I'm wrong, 2 teams in the Big 12 left standing, right? Us and K-State.
Yep.
Going to these super regionals. I think that's it. So, wow, what a story. And once again, in Randy Mazey's swan song. I keep wanting to say, should we lean into Ren and say, hey, maybe put a word in his ear? Does this really have
can
to
you
be
get him
the
to
last
stay?
run? Does
Come
it
on,
really
couple
have
more
to be?
years.
Yeah. But what a story. What a story.
Yeah, juicing them up for sure, man. And Jed, just you've been on sports teams. Wes, you've been on sports teams. When you really start to believe in the guy that's leading the ship, and you understand that
Powerful.
he's really more there for you, not just as a coach, but more as a friend, a family member, a second dad, whatever you want to call it. It just makes you want to play that much harder for a guy like that. And there's some of that. This is his kind of last go.
Win one for the Gipper.
Yeah, what I mean? It's kind of that's that whole deal, Wes. So win one here, dog.
Let's do it. Listen, you need to give Owen and I a reason to go out to Omaha, all right? We'll do it. I mean, twist my arm, but we'll do it. For those that haven't seen or haven't heard yet, again, best of 3 series. It happens this weekend. First game, Friday night, 6 o'clock. These are all Eastern times, obviously. So for our displaced Mountaineers, East Coast times. Game 1, Friday night, 6 o'clock. Game 2, Saturday night, 8 o'clock. And then game 3, which we all know isn't going to be necessary because the Mountaineers are going to take care of business in 2, but that's Sunday at 3 o'clock as well. All those games will be on ESPN2. You can also stream them on ESPN Plus as well, too. So let's go, Randy Mazey and the boys. We already made history. The only thing better than making history once. Let's make it twice here, all right? Let's keep this thing rolling and into the College World Series. We have got to get to a break. When we come back on the other side, I'm going to kind of get out of the way and let Owen and Jed have a fun little tribute to a position, a entity of football past, the Wedge Busters. We'll do a little laugh and share a couple stories here on the other side. You are in the gun.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less, in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
ITG will be right back.
Jerkovic throws it up for grabs, and it's intercepted by that secondary. Aubrey Burks all the way back to the 6-yard line.
For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
If you work the land, you just got to be a jack of all trades type. There's just too much to do. So if you got to be a welder or a farmer or a ditch digger, that's just who you are that day. Then tomorrow, you can be somebody else.
Get your Coyote at the new location of Johnston Equipment between Weston and Buchanan.
Back in the gun here as we roll along. Fun intro there, talking about Joe Mazzulla, talking about the unprecedented season that the WVU baseball program has had. But now we transition back to football here for the second segment, the final segment of this show. Another thank you to our guy JR and our friends at Toothman Ford. We all know cars cost less in Grafton. Big shout out to everybody there at Team Toothman. Real quick, Jed, some breaking news-ish before we get into the wedge. Just the format, the times announced for the college football playoff. Of course, the first 12-team edition of the college football playoff this year Just paint that picture for us briefly.
Exciting, multiple networks, opening weekend, games on campus. Remember, these first 4 games will take place on campus. That's my favorite part of this whole new format. First game is going to be Friday night, December 20th at 8 o'clock on ABC and ESPN. That will be an on-campus game pitting 2 of these top 12 teams. Then on Saturday, December 21st, guys, you have a triple header of playoff teams. Kicks off at noon on TNT on campus. Then at 4 p.m. at TNT, another on-campus game, rounded out at 8 o'clock Saturday night in primetime, ABC and ESPN. That's an on-campus game in primetime. Now, remember, there will be a couple NFL games on that same Saturday, including the Chiefs. So, interestingly enough there, second round, we'll start the bowls. That's when you get into the Fiesta Bowl, December 31st in primetime or 7:30. The Peach Bowl, January 1st, New Year's Day, also New Year's Day. The Rose Bowl, 5 o'clock. The Sugar Bowl, 8:45. And then finally, as you move to the semis, you're going to have the Orange Bowl, January 9th at 7:30 p.m. The next day, January 10th, 7:30 p.m., the Cotton Bowl, and then finally the National Championship on ESPN, Monday, January 20th at 7:30 p.m. But again, those first 4 games, guys, on campus, 1 Friday night, 3 Saturday. That's going to be wicked cool.
Real cool. And you know what? I mean, we talk about like noon games all this, all the time. And do you care? Do you want it later? If WVU gets to host a home playoff game, put us at noon. I don't care. I'm fine. Just give me one. We'll sign up for the noon. We'll sign up for the noon time slot right now. I'm there, baby. I do not care.
And the blowing snow.
That's exactly
days
right.
For Christmas.
I do love it too. That's going to be such a cool element, having those 4 games on campus. The atmospheres are going to be unreal. If the home team gets it done, if the away team breaks their hearts, like it's going to be such a cool setting and such a cool new wrinkle to the college football landscape. So yeah, we're certainly looking forward to that. As much as I still think it's dumb that college football, a sport that is Saturday through and through, continues to play its national championship game on a Monday, but that's a completely different conversation. I digress.
Butts and butts.
Gentlemen, this is where, I mean, listen, you guys talked about this. We wanted to do a Wedge Buster show. Of course, it's been what now? About 14 years, I think, Jed, since the Wedge was outlawed in the National Football League. Our guy, Big O, of course, has a ton of experience as a Wedge Buster. So I'll turn this thing over to you guys here for the last 10, 15 minutes or so. Where do you want to go with this? Maybe this is like an edition of Who Wants to Be a Mountaineer. Maybe I just need to introduce our new host, Jed, the Signal Caller Drenning. Where do you guys want to go with this one?
Let's walk people through this. First of all, give it some historical context. The kickoff play itself has always been regarded as highly dangerous. If you ever noticed, that's the one aspect of the game, more so than any other, that's the target of rule changes through the years. And that's because there's such velocity, there's such high impact, and there are so many serious injuries and head injuries from a collision standpoint on that. Go all the way back to the 1890s. There used to be a very short-lived thing called the flying wedge. Now, that only lasted a year or two before it was outlawed, all the way back in the 1890s. But even though the flying wedge on a kickoff was banned, the wedge itself was not. Now, give some people some context in terms of when we say a wedge, because you were involved in this, and that's what we're going to get into next. What exactly is a wedge in the context of a kickoff?
Well, basically, if you've seen the South Park episode, your Operation Human Shield, you're basically grabbing arms with your buddy, and it was generally a 3 or 4-man wedge, and you'd come together on the kick. You'd line up about 10, 15 yards in front of the returner on catch of the ball, and he'd yell "go." And you would literally lock arms and you form a human wall, a human wedge, and you run at the opposition. And your job is to, basically bust a hole in their opposition. And it's a brutal play, man. I mean, it's total carnage. It's all guts because, it could go either way. I have some funny stories of me, laying some good licks, and I have a lot of welcome to the NFL moments on the wedge, and as a wedge buster.
So that's a good explanation right there, Owen. And again, for those listening or those watching, understand that the kickoff return team itself is going to set the wedge. All right. So you're trying to set this human wall and be a human shield, as Owen said, for the return man. But on the other side, the kickoff team used to, this is, as Wes said, this is no longer a part of football. It was rendered illegal by the NFL first, 2009, 2010. And then the next year, college football banned it. But back when it was taking place, not only did you have these guys acting as human shields, but on the kickoff team, you had guys designated to bust that wedge. You literally had a guy called a wedge buster, this maniac who was a screaming banshee who was supposed to fly down the field 1,000 miles an hour as a human missile and just disintegrate whatever wedge they were trying to set up. Now, what I want to get to next, Owen, is if you look at the timelines of when this was outlawed, what that means is, of course, you took part in it for a few years, not only in college, obviously, but even in the NFL. For a year or two in the NFL, it was still legal the first part of your career. So walk us through what role you played, either on the return team, on the kickoff team, on both. Walk us through the role that you played, either as a Seahawk, as an Eagle, as a Raider, whatever it might have been.
Well, and Jed, just to kind of clarify a little bit too, there was ways around still getting able to use that type of wedge play. Like they no longer you couldn't do a 3-man wedge. You could do a 2-man wedge, so teams would go 2-man wedges. But basically that's a lot of why I lasted as long as I did in the league, was because of that special teams stuff. And I was a tough guy who was, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're the wedge buster, you're getting paid to run down there with your hair on fire and literally try to blow someone up. And on the opposite side of it, you're linking arms with another man and you're trying to blow someone up again. So, I mean, you got to have a little bit of cojones and be a little loose in the brain to make that happen. But, kind of getting, into my career or whatever, how that role played was, fullbacks would play those positions, linebackers. The wedge normally would get pretty heavy. So you'd be like with, guys who were like maybe second team guard and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And you're talking about a guard at, 290 pounds. I did some work with Trevor in Philly, and that was Trevor Laws, and he was a D lineman, and I'm pretty sure he was up in the 290s. So I mean, it's a big heavy position, man, and there's just a lot of carnage. And I mean, low man wins to a certain point, and then physics, becomes involved because there's just only so much weight a human body can move at a given speed. I'm going to tell a quick story about my welcome to Dan Moses welcomed me to the NFL from the sidelines, but he witnessed the play. I was a wedge buster. I was both this game for Seattle, but it's my rookie season. We're playing in Minnesota. My whole family from Wisconsin's there at the game. There's probably like 50 people there from G-Town. And I'm the first play of the game, dude. We got kickoff and I'm running down there, dude. And I picked the middle guy out of the wedge. And I'm just going to lay him out, dude. So I get underneath his chin and I rock him, dude. Big old 300-pound lineman. Well, eventually we had to return I think we scored, or it was like halftime. I went up again. Well, this time the whole focus of the wedge was at me. So I had a 900-pound wall to try to bust up. And, me being a meathead, instead of really trying to, split wood properly and look for the cracks. I just said, you know what, I'm going straight down the middle for the strike, dog. I'm gonna see what happens. And it didn't work out so well. I ended up the back of my head was the first thing that hit the ground. And I remember getting up and I could see Dan Moses on the sideline for the Vikings. And I mean, just busting a gut, dude. And kind of, that was my welcome to the NFL moment as far as being a wedge buster. But
that was a preseason game, you're saying, against
Minnesota?
That was
Yep, it was a preseason game.
I'm looking at it, Owen, August 8th, 2008, 34-17.
Yep,
you guys beat them. But
yep.
Yeah, for what that's
and it's
worth.
crazy. I played alongside of David Hawthorne, who was really exceptional at special teams as far as like wedge busting. I mean, this guy was a shorter framed linebacker, thick in the lower half, could run, really could get underneath you and lift, and he would literally crack heads. And David, that was an integral part of David's career as well, the special team stuff, until he kind of broke into like some full-time roles at linebacker. But it's a way of guys like myself or David or kind of those guys on the cusp really, made value for ourselves so we could make squads.
So that's what I want to ask you. Let's talk about even back in 2008, 2009. Coaches still didn't like to take live kickoff reps in practice. I mean, you took more back then than you do now. But even back then, they recognized the inherent danger of it, and it was very limited. So let's say that someone like yourself, a perfectly suitable candidate to be a wedge buster, how did you win the job? Like, there have to be a certain setting, certain drills, a skill set that you present. It's not like you're taking live kickoff reps 20 times in practice and you went out on film. How exactly did you go about even earning that job?
To be honest with you, I feel like I was just dubbed the wedge buster. David and I were I mean, legit R5L5. And that's just where they put me right away. And I assume because of my skill ability with being able to, move a little bit and be able to bend, not much, but a little bit, but be able to kind of, bend those lines and transitions. And I could run, I mean, I wasn't the fastest guy out there, but I was a 255.
For a big guy though, you had good athleticism.
Yeah. Like I was a 250, 255, 260 pound guy who could like basically keep up with the whole horde running down there to, bust them up. So, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like that position just kind of got dropped in my lap in preseason. That's where they just naturally put me on second team or whatever. And then, just through reps in preseason, I think that's kind of where I ended up winning the job.
So let's take this to break with this. We need to, at some point in the future, spend almost an entire episode on this next one, but give us, because this fits with you being a wedge buster, give us the Cliff's notes on what happened and then toss it to Wes for break. The famous moment you were starting against the Jaguars in Seattle, where you busted yourself, split your head wide open. You're bleeding like a stuffed pig. That thing went viral. People still see that video. What was the 20-second story behind that? Because I think we can spend an episode telling that story. At some point we will.
Well, it was my first start. I was pumped up. I was trying to think of, I mean, it's like when you come out of the tunnel, that's your one, like, wrestling entrance moment. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So exactly. So I'm like, I'll do this head busting thing. That's, only did it once or twice in college. I'm pretty sure I only did it once in college, but people remembered it, and I just went full ham with it when they called me out, and a little too hard, man, and just and literally barely busted my skin open. Like I'm talking like a quarter, not even. quarter inch. You know what I mean? Small little gash.
No skin there.
Yeah. Just busted right on the top. Like I literally hit it perfect right where your forehead has like a little bump, and just struck it true, man, and ended up running out there. And I knew something was crazy because when I hit it, I could feel warm. It felt like warm water was coming down my face. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know that's obviously what I did.
Your jersey was stained the rest of the game.
Yeah, and I remember, and I'll tell more of the story later, but I can remember this running to the offense because that's why we were getting called out. The offense was for opening intros, and I get into the huddle, and Matt Hasselbeck is like, he's looking at me crazy eyed, and he's like, big dog, he's like, big boy, you take it, man. You know what I mean? And I was fired up. I was like, let's even go, man. You know what I mean? I was like, kill them all. But and then and that was a rough year for us. We ended up winning that game. We ended up and I got my butt chewed on the side. But like I said, we'll encapsulate that story later. But it is a long story, and it's a good one. It's a good one.
I tell you what, I mean, Big O, I know you know this, but you've been pretty you had a decorated football career. Everyone knows the story of the walk on to WVU, to that moment after the Fiesta Bowl, to the NFL, and all. Like, you've had some memorable moments. I just referenced one of them not too long ago, right? When I talked about your speech at the end of that game on national TV. But man, I tell you what, outside of Mountaineer Nation, the most predominant thing when you ask people about Owen Schmidt is, oh, you mean that guy from the Seahawks that just busted his head open? Like,
yeah.
I've told you before, Owen, I've got my wife is from Philadelphia. Her side of the family, like, they like the Phillies, they like the Sixers and the Flyers, but they are Eagles through and through. They've had Eagles season tickets for decades, and like, they were smitten when I told them 2 years ago that you and I were starting to do this show, and like, oh man, we loved him with the Eagles and he was so much fun. And one of the first things they always say is, remember when he was playing for the Seahawks and he busted his forehead open? So it's funny, all the things that you accomplished on the field, and the heartfelt moments in the post game, and just your incredible story of the VHSs and the walk on. What people remember you for is busting your head open in your WWE.
I would tell Skylar to play the video while we're talking about it, but we'll be banned in like 15 countries by YouTube.
Right. That's right.
There's a graphic content.
Don't use the NFL. Don't use the NFL video.
No, YouTube has a graphic content warning when you go to watch that video. Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's my grandmother. I'll tell you what. After that happened, she was so disappointed with me. She was so upset. And I was just like,
it's always the grandmas.
She was like, what were you thinking? I was like, man, it was my first start ever in the NFL. I have worked so hard to get here. I don't know what my problem is. You know what I mean? I'm nuts.
Oh man, that is fantastic. I love it. I love it. Some great stories. A big thank you as well, too, before I forget, to our friends at Johnston Equipment. Make sure you're checking out their new location, Route 33, just outside of Weston. And you know what? This will transition nicely. This is a nice way to end this. Big O, from Wedge Buster, Face Buster, Face Mask Buster, to now Dancing with the Stars. Tell us what you got going on and where everybody can support you.
Oh, boy. I got called, and they said they were behind on getting people, and asked me, and before I could really even compute what I was saying yes for, I said yes. And but it's a great thing, man. I need to push. I need to work a little bit better, get pushing it out there so I can get people to help donate. It's for a great cause. It's Southern West Virginia United Way. Thousands of families will be helped out with these contributions. And just a cool thing, my dance partner, Jenna Sexton, we started practicing. It just let me know how out of shape and how uncoordinated I really am when it comes to dancing at all.
No doubt.
But we have some really cool events coming up, and I'm doing a couple camps as well. we're doing a cash club thing where you can win $5,000. There's stuff on my Facebook page, and we can
Saturday,
put that stuff
June 22nd at the Neon Cash Club.
Yep. And that's a cool event. There'll be other prizes as well, and some food and drink as well, and music. And then I'm doing, actually, this is not with United Way, but I'm doing a football camp in Doddridge County with the Devil Dogs. That'll be the 29th.
Mild turf,
Yep.
baby. Listen, when's that? I might have to be there for that.
Yep. And that's gonna be a good youth football camp for everybody. That's another one, and anybody's welcome. It's I believe it's ages or grades, I think 3 to 8 or 4 to 8. One of those. I'll have to look on the website, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but you guys can check that out as well. And then I have another camp with United Way, and this will be in July 13th, and that'll be in Beckley.
Woodrow Wilson High School.
Yep, at Woodrow Wilson, they were kind enough to let us use their facilities for this event. And another cool thing, if you can, as parents, if you are coming to the event, and you can bring another pair of shoes with you to donate to United Way as well. That's another big charity thing, and trying to get donations there so we can get some of these shoes and feet covers of the less fortunate here. And then we got a golf tournament and a bunch of other stuff, but I'll talk to you guys about that later.
Facebook page is Team Jenna and Owen. JENNA. So Team Jenna and Owen. If you want to hop onto that Facebook page as well too, and get involved with everything Owen's got going on.
Yes, sir. Got a lot. Put myself through the ringer right now
on social media.
You can't be. I also listen. We're gonna wrap this episode up here in just a second, but you can't be doing stuff in Doddridge County without telling me. All right, those are my people. Really. That's my turf, baby.
I figured you guys were so connected. You know your family members would tell you.
That's exactly right. As soon as it happened, I got a text 20 seconds later. But yeah, big shout out to Big O, doing great things for all in the name of the United Way there, and helping out some families and some children in need. We'll continue to talk about that and keep you posted on all of that as we go along and we get closer to all of those dates. But that'll do it for us on this edition of ITG. For the beer truck, the Wedge Buster, the dancing star, Owen Schmidt, and the signal caller, Jed Drenning. I'm Wesley Euler. The one thing we ask of you before we get out of here is to be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast. Thanks to our guy, Skyler, for putting this all together. As always, take care, and we'll talk to you next time. You've been In the Gun.
ITG.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback,
be sure to follow us on X at In the Gun Podcast.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
I love the state. I got a chance to play here. And this is awesome. This is the way I pictured it.
This mission is over. It's over.